Welcome to 1348, a year when the simple act of drawing a hot bath wouldn't just be considered foolish, it was practically viewed as a death sentence.
The stench in the crowded Parisian streets is suffocating, a thick soup of rot, excrement, and burning wood that clings to your clothes and hair. This isn't just the smell of an expanding medieval city. It's the smell of a deliberate, desperate survival strategy. Around you, people who once enjoyed the warmth of public bathhouses now actively avoid water. The public stews in London have been ordered closed by King Edward III himself. Across Europe, the very idea of stepping into a tub of hot water has become synonymous with inviting a horrific death. You hear the frantic whispers and the frantic prayers. The medical elite, the most learned men of the era, are terrified. In October 1348, the renowned medical faculty of Paris issues a formal treatise to King Philip VI. Their warning is stark and terrifying. Hot baths open the body's pores, making them gateways for the deadly, invisible plague. To wash is to invite the pestilence directly into your blood. The wealthy and poor alike have stopped bathing. In Siena, terrified citizens have practically abandoned the city's beautiful aqueduct-fed public fountains. The life-giving water is now seen as a deadly vector. You watch as a neighbor rubs dry linen aggressively against their skin, eyes wide with the fear that an invisible miasma might already be seeping in. The centuries-old tradition of communal washing is collapsing overnight. A wet, humid corruption of the air, as decreed by the king's own astrologers, is blamed. You realize with a sinking feeling that the world has abruptly changed. The water that once cleansed now feels like liquid venom. Before this, the public bathhouse had been the beating heart of social life, a place to gather, scrub, and enjoy the heat. But now, as you walk past the shuttered structures of London's once thriving stews in Southwark, that cheerful warmth feels like a distant memory. The air in the streets has thickened, carrying a damp, decaying odor. Authorities across Europe have convinced everyone that the danger isn't just the plague victim coughing beside you, but the very air itself. The prevailing medical doctrine holds that an invisible, toxic vapor, a corrupt air born of corrupted elements, sweeps through the cities. In Venice, the Health Council issues urgent warnings, declaring that damp, steamy environments are primary vectors for the sudden, catastrophic mortality currently ravaging the population. This means every puddle, every humid gust, and especially the dense fog of a bathhouse, is viewed with absolute dread. King Philip VI of France demands answers, and his personal astrologers decree that a wet, humid corruption of the atmosphere is to blame. Because of this, any contact with standing water is considered fundamentally suicidal. As the death toll mounts, your neighbors begin to look at their own sweat not as dirt, but as protection. The belief is absolute. Wash away your natural oils, open your skin to the wet air, and the miasma will instantly rush into your open pores. But as paranoia deepens, the true horror of this new medical consensus is about to be violently confirmed by the brightest minds of the age. As the year drags into autumn, the quiet paranoia explodes into an official medical panic. October 1348 arrives with a brutal finality, as the medical faculty of Paris, the undisputed center of medieval medical science, sends a terrifying document directly into the hands of King Philip VI. They issue a formal treatise, unequivocally declaring that the simple act of taking a hot bath will aggressively open the skin's pores to the deadly plague. By allowing the heat to enter your body, you are actively inviting the invisible, silent death lurking outside to seep deep into your veins. The chaos of medical pronouncements continues to mount as influential voices desperately search for safety. The acclaimed medical school of Montpellier, a prestigious beacon of learning, goes a step further, formally declaring that bathing in warm water when a south wind blows is nothing short of a guaranteed death sentence. For commoners and the elite alike, these official warnings validate their worst fears. Every sudden chill or drop of hot water is now scrutinized as a fatal error. Panic transforms folklore into grim medical reality. You hear the whispers of terrifying myths that spread faster than the illness. Sudden, unexplained deaths of individuals found submerged in baths aren't just accidents. They are immediate consequences of an invisible plague demon traveling directly through city water pipes to claim its victims. Every fountain, every basin, and every water bucket feels like a trap waiting to be sprung. As the cold air chills your bones and the filth hardens on your skin, you wonder not if you will be infected, but when the very air you breathe will finally seep through. The desperation transforms daily life into an agonizing routine of forced filth. Instead of water, your survival depends on dry rubbing. You watch as wealthy Londoners violently scrape their skin with rough linen cloths and pungent, dry powders. They are not trying to feel clean. They are trying to strip away the dirt without unsealing their skin. To the commoner in a cold, soot-stained room, a thick, accumulated crust of body oil and grime is no longer shameful. It is physical armor against the invisible poison in the air. If you are a woman, the simple luxury of washing your hair is now a terrifying risk. Instead, you vigorously scrub your scalp with a harsh, abrasive mixture of burnt vine ashes and stale breadcrumbs to absorb the grease. To counteract the foul smell of this unwashed reality, the air in wealthy homes is constantly thick with burning camphor and expensive imported spices like cloves and nutmeg, whose prices have skyrocketed beyond reason. If someone must absolutely cleanse a wound or a festering bubo, surgeons turn to horrific extremes. Rather than washing the weeping sore, they press a searing hot iron directly onto the unwashed, blistering skin, preferring agonizing burns to the fatal touch of water. In certain isolated villages, peasants resort to a bizarre, horrifying alternative: urine washing. Stale urine, collected in clay pots, is believed to be a safer, pore-tightening alternative to the lethality of the local river. Every act of hygiene is replaced with a painful, smelly substitution, turning mere survival into a gritty, unrelenting medical nightmare. The physical landscape tells the story best when the panic settles, a profound, terrifying stillness. You walk into Siena, once renowned for its magnificent public fountains, the aqueducts that used to gather the crowds every single day. Look closer. These fountains, masterworks of ancient engineering, now stand quiet and untouched. Maintenance has completely ceased, the very essence of urban life abandoned out of a paralyzing terror. People who desperately needed water are keeping their distance. Water is no longer life. Water is danger. You look to the old Roman baths, structures standing for centuries. Villagers refuse to maintain the stones, intentionally blocking or actively avoiding the remnants of the aqueducts out of fear that they harbor corrupt air. Down the river, life is not what it used to be. The busy trade routes that serviced every household have been silenced. Those once prosperous water-bearers, people whose entire livelihood depended on hauling fresh water to London's homes, are facing complete ruin. Households drastically cut back on water consumption to shut out the disease, bringing entire businesses to a grinding halt. fear changes the flow of society. Everything connected to water simply vanishes into dread. The great medical panic of 1348 didn't just fade away. It permanently changed the way humanity viewed its own skin. By the end of 1349, across northern Europe, the centuries-old tradition of communal bathhouses was completely crippled. Generations would be raised to fear water, to see it not as a source of cleanliness, but as a fatal gateway. Strangely, the dense layers of dirt, sweat, and animal fat coating the skin of the peasantry may have accidentally provided a physical barrier against the actual vector of the plague, infected flea bites. Yet, underneath the survival mechanisms, a deeper, darker terror lingered in the folklore. It is a deeply obscure legend born in 1348, one that warned against simply looking at your own reflection in a tub of still water. The fear was that the plague would reach out, unseal your pores, and pull your soul into the corrupt abyss. Today, we turn on our showers without a second thought, the steam a source of comfort. But beneath the history of modern hygiene lies a terrifying era where the only thing deadlier than the filth you lived in was the water that could wash it away.